cutting Social Security taxes could be cutting your nose off to spite your face. I know the election could lead to changes in tax policy. How might these changes affect my Social Security benefits, pension income, or withdrawals from retirement accounts? Should I be adjusting my tax planning or retirement withdrawal strategy? Well, I would say, Jordan, let's just wait and see. There is a lot of uncertainty out there, and even though President Trump won his election and the Republicans took the House and the Senate, politics is politics, and, getting some of the things done that Trump wants to do, that he campaigned on, is going to be probably more difficult than just making an edict and saying that it's done.
Let it be so. I think it never is when it comes to politics. It's anything but smooth sailing. There's going to be, more than just we need a certain number of votes. They still have to be able to keep their jobs. And so they're not going to just make typically overarching changes. So I think if you just pause for a minute, we can deal with each of these things separately. Just pause for a minute and understand that there are boundaries in place in our politics and in the government. So hopefully, things will be a little balanced by the end of it.
Let's take Social Security, for instance. Trump has said that he would like to not tax Social Security at all for seniors, and I'm sure seniors would love that. Here's the problem. The taxes that are paid on Social Security go right back into the Social Security system, and they are used to pay future benefits. Already we have a Social Security system that is designed at this particular point or is on track at this particular point to run out of its reserves in 2033 or 2034, depending on the year that you look at it. But Teresa, that's where this becomes a little bit more difficult. And when you also think about the fact that Social Security and military spending, and there's certainly a lot of fat in military spending, but those two things make up the preponderance of the budget. And there is a lot of stuff that can be cut without question. We've seen example after example, but cutting Social Security taxes could be cutting your nose off to spite your face.
Yes, we talked about earlier, if your portfolio dropped by 40%, your bills still exist. Our government still has bills that it's got to pay. So saying, we're just not going to take in this income flippantly is not a realistic expectation. Now, there are some things in place that could lead to cutting some of that fat. We've got Elon and Vivek are at the Department of Government Efficiency now. So it may be that they're able to find some ways to create some space in the budget. But just like your budget, you can't cut the income without cutting expenses too. So we're going to have to see what happens with that one.
She mentioned the pension income. It's unlikely that your pension income would be affected by anything tax-wise. I don't know that we're talking about reducing tax brackets or anything of that nature. There may be some of that go on, but I do think that the spending cuts have to come first, and let's see what leeway we have, because the budget deficit just keeps growing and growing. We've got to stem that tide first. So I wouldn't look for any big tax cuts per se, particularly in pension income or withdrawals from retirement accounts.
Now, on the flip side of that, though, if they don't sunset the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, then it may remain at, these lower levels that we're seeing right now. So there is a chance that could benefit you by it not changing, but I don't see it going lower based on what we're seeing yet.
Yeah, I think the removal of the sunset or the extension of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, it was programmed to be expiring at the end of 2025, and that would revert back to 2017 when it was passed, and those rates were higher. Your standard deduction was lower. There were a lot of other things that would change as a result of all of that. And I think that's the big thing. Is let's just kind of keep things steady where they are, would be the attitude of the Trump administration. And then let's nibble around the edges on the expenditures and see what we may be able to do as well. So I think but when Jordan brings this up, I think this is a real opportunity, though, to think about forward-looking tax planning. This is something that we engage in with our clients here at GenWealth. We try to look ahead. Most of the time when you go to your CPA or you go to your tax provider, tax preparer rather, you're going in with a rear view mirror look at what has happened in the past year and then documenting that for the IRS. That is not tax planning. That is tax preparation, and that's paying your taxes in a lawful and legal way. Tax planning is actually looking ahead and trying to decide what lawful and legal ways do you want to reduce the amount of tax that you will pay into the future. Notice I said into the future and not next year. Some of the things that you would engage in forward-looking tax planning are designed to lower your tax bill way into the future when you retire. That is a huge benefit to most retirees if they can keep their taxes as low as possible. So this is a plug for forward-looking tax planning. If you're not getting that from your tax person, then you need to sit down with a Gen Wealth advisor. Let us walk through some strategies that can help you look ahead on that subject of tax planning. I know a lot of people are really always wanting to lower their taxes, but it's like everything else, Teresa. We're busy and we don't really take the time to do the hard work that is thinking about how the future might be better than the present.
Yes, and I think for a lot of people it feels overwhelming. The weight of keeping track of things feels overwhelming, but there are tons of things that you can do to help yourself out for the future that don't require a lot of work on your part. I mean, there's apps that can help you track expenses and different things that you can do. But the other side of it too is what we want to encourage people is don't spend $1 to save 20 cents. There are a lot of times where people say, well, buy this, spend that to avoid taxes or avoid taxes altogether at all cost, but then they get to retirement and they don't have a Social Security check to help supplement their income. So everything there's an effect, to everything that you do, cause and effect. So make sure that your plans are perfect for what you need, not just kind of these cookie cutter recommendations.